Hi folks, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I should start off by telling you that I am an American living in Germany for way too long. And sometimes I rant about it here on my channel. Welcome. But my returning viewers and subscribers that have been following my videos are aware that normally, or at least quite often in my videos, I talk about the things in Germany that I am quite impressed with. I am very thankful for my time living in Germany, and I could be quoted as saying a couple times, Germany has saved my life. But this video is not going to be like those videos, because today I want to go over 5 things that I really just don't understand, even after more than 20 years living in Germany. Maybe you can help me understand, and I look forward to reading your comments and your opinions and fun facts on the things that I bring up here today. After all, this video in and of itself was provoked by a comment. I read a comment from somebody asking me, why don't I point out some of the bad things about life here in Germany? So if you folks got something to say, let it out in the comments down below. Maybe you can help me understand better these things I bring up here today. Let's get into it. Number 1. Something that was very striking to me as a foreigner moving to Germany, and something that still very much disturbs me and I don't fully understand, is just how cold and unfriendly this society can feel, specifically to strangers, somebody they don't know. Because from my experience, living here this long in Germany, many, if not most, ignore their neighbors, enter their apartments like they are horses with little blinders on. We do not talk and make friendly chit-chat on the streets or at bus stops or on the train. We don't hand out random smiles and say good morning to strangers on the street. Well, I say we because I do, or did. And most of the time, it's answered back with a cold, hard, dead stare. Hard truth that not a lot of Germans are going to like to hear. Sometimes when I throw out my random good morning to a random person on the street because our eyes met, and that's what we do where I'm from, sometimes I will in fact get a hi right back. And 9 times out of 10, they're not German. I can hear it in their accent. Even worse, I've been in situations that just kind of shocked me how many Germans would go by and didn't feel the need to stop and see if help was needed. One would have been a situation where my car broke down on the side of the road. Pouring rain, I'm standing out, more than 20 cars drove by, not one person stopped to see if I needed help. But another time that was even worse was one time I had a pinched nerve in my back, and it was shooting pain down my leg. I attempted to make my way to my doctor, but unfortunately I had to take a bus and then walk from a bus stop to my doctor's office. The pain struck me so bad, I literally dropped down onto the sidewalk and had to sit there on the cold, hard sidewalk in pain for a good 15 minutes. At least 3 cars drove by me, and at least 4 different people had passed me on the street, on my side or the other side. Nobody saw this as anything to go, hey, are you okay? You need help? No. Germans are very good out in public at pretending they just don't see other people. But what's really weird to me is how often they will see you. They'll make dead eye contact, that cold, dead stare eye contact, but still respond with nothing. It makes me so uncomfortable, and I don't understand it. But if you take into consideration my brutal opinions here that I just spewed out about what it can be like in society here, maybe you can understand then why I don't understand why things completely change when I feel my worst. What I'm talking about is, we don't talk to strangers on the street. Half the time we don't even talk to our neighbors. We have to keep quiet, don't show emotion and act friendly on the bus or the train. Don't talk to friends, don't smile, don't greet. Just keep moving, nothing to see. But the second in Germany that you're not feeling good and you go to your German doctor's office and you walk into that waiting room, suddenly German society expects you to greet everybody. This stuck out like a sore thumb to me in the first year I moved here to Germany, and now I am over 20 years here, as I've already stated multiple times, and I still do not understand this. The same Germans that, because I feel awkward because our eyes just met while standing at a bus stop and I go, Guten Tag, and they respond with, those same Germans, as I'm sitting in a waiting room, feeling like hell, suddenly expect a Guten Tag from me. Now, when I was new here, I tried to play this game. I played along. Culture. I gotta do what they do in their culture. This is what they do in their culture. But I'm calling it out. I boycott it now. I boycott it. If you ever happen to run into me in a doctor's waiting room office, I am the one jerk that will not say a word unless I know you. Because I know a majority of you out on the street would flat out ignore me. And now what? Now I'm forced to be friendly and I should just play along with your fake friendliness? Nah, I don't understand it. And I'm not playing along. Moving on to number 2. Let's talk about some drinking in public and the possibly sexist side of it here in Germany. You see, in case you're not from here, drinking in public is actually pretty normal in Germany. From your day drinkers that are at the train station drinking all day long, but also hardworking people cracking open a beer on their way home after a hard day at work. Opening a beer out in public in Germany will not make anybody look twice at you. It's quite common. And while I understand that beer is considered to many people as part of German culture, I don't understand how a lot of Germans seem to not want to talk about what comes along with the drinking part of that culture, and that's peeing. Listen to me, folks. I was once a member of a beer drinking club here in Germany. I have drank a lot of delicious German beer, and I promise you, it makes you have to go pee. But for some reason here in Germany, there seems to be a little double standard in what's, let's say, accepted behavior with this drinking culture. I could give you 100 examples from the variety of festivals I went to that had toilets, but yet there still would be German men whipping out their items and peeing on random walls or in bushes. Or I could tell you about how from my own living room window, every once in a while, I will see a German man, usually with a beer in his hand, directly across from my window. He pees on the one wall. It's like a corner back there. It seems to me a lot of foosball fans know about when they're drunk on my street for whatever reason. But where it's really clear, and in my opinion, accepted, is, for example, when there is one of these foosball soccer games going on. I can't tell you how many times I made the mistake of coming through the Mönchengladbach train station and coming out the other side to see not just a buttload of cops here, but all along the whole wall of the train station, whole bunches of men dressed up all the same in their stupid soccer gear, with their members out, peeing on the wall. And this is all fine. Nobody says a damn thing. But where it really pisses me off, and where I really do not understand it, is here, for example, in Mönchengladbach. I can think of 2 places where the city is so aware of this German men peeing in public problem that they put the money in and put public urinals. One is on a location known as Bismarckplatz, and the other one that I'm aware of can be found up in the section of the Altstadt, where all of the bars are. So the city acknowledges men here have a tendency to drink a lot of alcohol, whip out their item in public, and just pee on whatever's nearby. So they decided to provide them with free toilets. Isn't that nice? Excuse me, but how am I the only person here that doesn't see how incredibly sexist that is? As somebody that used to drink quite a bit myself and had to pee quite often in public, somehow I'm expected to have self-restraint. I'm expected to have manners and be hygienic. I, as a female, am not provided an open, public, free peeing spot. But the men are. It's called self-control, Germany. And I don't understand why you just don't expect German men who drink beer to have self-control. I also repeat, I don't understand how that is not sexism. Where's my public toilet? Where is my public free toilet? And before you say I should use one of those urinals, I used to work at festivals. Trust me, attempts were made. They don't work for women. But yeah, I don't understand any of that. Number 3. Germany is a social democracy with a safety net that offers assistance to people that are in need. By far, this system offers much more than the one that I am from. So you can understand why I respect it and am thankful for it. However, there's a few things about it that I just don't understand. This really hit me recently when, over the Christmas holidays, I had really come into some really hard times and I needed to make contact with somebody. I needed advice. I needed to get something moving in the way of assistance. I found myself in a situation where I was unallowed to go to any of these buildings, where if I did, I would be greeted by a security man who would tell me to leave, make a phone call, make an appointment, go on the website. But even more horrifying is then when I did find myself at home and I did go on the city website and I did seek assistance, the link wouldn't work. And because I was doing this within the week around when Christmas was going to happen, I also wasn't getting responses to the email addresses that I had to really fish around to find the people that were in what I thought maybe were the departments to help me. But eventually I found them, and then I waited a bunch of days till someone got back to me. You may be wondering why I didn't just start making phone calls. Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes when you call these government offices, you get put on hold for a long time. You're lucky if you get someone. I've had it a few times where I was just disconnected after sitting on hold for 10 minutes. But also, I am deaf in one ear and suffer from an incredibly loud and annoying ringing tinnitus. Also, you may have noticed that because of a stupid tumor, all of this stuff, I've got a little bit of mouth issues, and as a foreigner, when I speak German, I speak with a thick accent. So let's just say talking on the phone is not my go-to move. It's not the easiest for me. And we're in 2022 Germany. You seriously need to get your act together. It's ridiculous how many times links on websites and emails go unresponded and nothing works. I found myself sitting here and thinking, oh my God, this is horrifying, because I know there's people worse off than me. And I thought, what if they don't have the internet? What if their phone got shut off? What if their internet got shut off? I found myself in that same situation, and I found it horrifying that it started to feel like these offices here have essentially made it more difficult to get assistance. And when I say they made it more difficult, let me tell you something. 20 years living in Germany, I've changed jobs a few times here in Germany, and in between, you end up having to deal with these offices. And if I may be so bold, I am going to flat out state my opinion based on my experience. The unemployment Amt here, what they call the Agentur zur Arbeit, the Arbeitsamt, in my opinion, they have a real problem with their employees. Any time I personally have had to go to that Amt, that office, I have not been in a good mental state. It is not a good feeling for me to have to do. And I can't tell you how many times I would finally get my act together, go to those appointments, take all of my paperwork, and come out and come home, only to find myself in a conversation not long after with German friends who have been through the system here, know the system here, and then they come at me with what essentially feels like code words. They start saying things to me, oh, but you have a right to this, and you should have asked for this form and that form. And all I can think of is, how does anybody know these secret code words? I am literally walking into that office asking for help, exposing everything in the way of my finances. They know I need help. Is it not that person's job to offer me any assistance available to me? No, it's not. In my experience, they pick and choose. And also in my experience, in my opinion, they also have a real problem with the people they pick to do those jobs. The amount of bad attitude, rude people that I have met when I was already at a low point in my life, looking for a little help, it feels like kicking people when you're down. I have had that office that is supposed to help me find a job, send me job offers, look me in the face and tell me nobody would hire me with my accent. This Arbeitsamt also would be the same department here in Germany that at one point my son was in, and he was given the helpful tip that when he was applying for jobs, he might want to consider leaving off his first name, because in the opinion of this xenophobic worker of that Amt, my son's name sounded to them too African. Now, as usual, this just proves that most racists are just completely ignorant and just talk out of their ass. My son's name is not African at all, as if it matters. It can be found quite often in Middle Eastern lands, but my son's name is not African, and how dare this person say something like that? So what you're admitting to is you're well aware that there's xenophobia and racism in your system, right? I can't tell you, whenever I have to go and deal with that, I'm telling you, I will have a period of crying. Just because I know I have to go there and I know what I'm going to encounter. I remember one time reaching out for support from a German friend, and he meant well. He meant well. And he came in with me to just accompany me and make sure things went smoothly and that I got what I needed. And at the front desk, I did not ask him to do this, but at the front desk, he made the mistake of asking the lady behind the counter if the forms were available in English. Ladies and gentlemen, you may note that that is a yes or no question, right? Not in that office. In that office, her response was a very miserable face, a very stern tone, and she looked at me, I did not ask the question, and informed me that I live in Germany, and the official language of Germany is German. I responded to her, I know, and I speak it in German. So sick of those people. I do not understand how there is such a great social safety, security net, supposedly programs available for everything, but I'm telling you people, in my own personal experience, it's very, very frustrating trying to get help. You will feel humbled, you will feel belittled, you will feel naked having to expose everything, and you will definitely feel judged. Most recently, I was really shocked when that same department, who was well aware of what I was going through and that I was filing to be put into a temporary retirement, essentially. It took a whole year to get to that process, and when that decision was finally made and I got that information, I submitted it to that department and I asked them, how do I proceed for more assistance? For the assistance that I have a right to here as somebody that has been working and paying taxes for 20-some years. I clearly asked them, help me because this isn't going to be enough to live from. Please tell me what forms, what do I need to do? They were aware that I had a brain tumor and such. And after them being aware that for a whole year I had gone through that process and was waiting for this and that this was coming because of the stupid brain tumor that I had, the response that I got was a man that, instead of responding to my very polite email, called me on the phone in the nastiest yelling tone, told me I needed to wait because back pay was owed and they weren't going to offer me any assistance until I got that back pay from this other department. I repeat, I had just waited a year. I thought I had to wait. Well, fast forward a couple months later, turns out I shouldn't have waited. Turns out I was booted out of the system, and no back pay is owed to me. And yeah, it's left me in a really bad financial situation. I do not understand how this social safety net here in Germany that is set up to help people when they are at their lowest chooses to employ people that verbally kick people when they're down and treat them like garbage. And again, if I may be so bold, based on my experience and stories I have heard from fellow foreigner friends here in Germany, the Arbeitsamt has a xenophobia problem. It would be a good idea if you did a little screening when you put people in these positions, just to make sure they're treating all people the same and fair. Because I don't understand half of the things I've encountered with seeking help from the social safety net here in Germany. And it feels like it's just constantly getting harder. Just getting harder to get that support that's supposedly available to the people living here. I don't understand. Number 4, if you've been watching my videos, you may have heard me mention that I view Germans as generally pretty well educated, detailed, sometimes like perfectionists. If I wanted to be cross, I might say quite often anal retentive. In my opinion, many Germans are just known for like really over-analyzing, overthinking, paperwork on paperwork, rules on rules, details on details. In fairness, in many situations in society, it does make things run well, but in some places it just gets in the way. It's too much. But having that knowledge and seeing that sort of personality of a culture, if you will, this is why I do not understand the amount of times in this country they will choose to approximate. And approximate with what, you ask? With money, which in some situations can lead somebody into a horrible financial situation. Debt. The first example I think of, I was a little surprised when I was new here to find out, for example, in what you could call some side costs with apartments. So let's just say the electric. There'll be a situation like you move in and they tell you, oh, well, the two people that were living there before you paid around 50 euros a month. So your bill moving in is 50 euros a month until the end of the year. That's when we're going to look at the actual numbers. And this is where the annoying thing happens, in my opinion. This is where many Germans like to pipe up and tell you, but if you're lucky, you will get money back. Listen to me. Listen, I've been here for 20 some years. That's happened to me under a handful of times. And I do not understand this approximation. America is huge. It's a lot bigger than Germany. And even there, they figured out how to send a guy around, look at the meters, and send me a bill for what I used. What is the problem with billing me for what I used instead of guessing and then at the end having to do these mathematics and these paybacks? But where it really shocked me, what I really didn't understand, what really pushed me to the edge was when I tried to be self-employed here in Germany. I'm telling you, as a foreigner, it was really tough navigating this system and trying to make sure I did everything right. And the little venture that I had tried, I was not bringing in a lot of money. I was struggling and I was building up debt to my health insurance, which was quite expensive being self-employed here. And so essentially, I was in the beginning stages of trying to do this. I was struggling. I was swimming under debt, not making a lot of money, and then out of nowhere, the great city that I live in sends me a paper claiming that they think I owe them something like 10,000 euros. Folks, I really thought, I'm done. I can't do this land. How the hell do they think I owe them 10,000 euros? I didn't earn anywhere near that. Sure enough, it was a case of the German approximations. I went to the Finanzamt. I wanted to look this woman in the eyes. I wanted answers. Where did she get this number? She explained to me, pointing to binders behind her, based on other people that do the job. At which point I responded, I find that really interesting because not many people do this specific thing. And the ones that do, I'll dare say that I've met and I know quite a few of them. So I ask again, may I see some proof as to where you came up with this number that I owe this big rich city 10,000 euros? Long story short, it turns out in the end, it was all approximations. She never did show me proof that she came to that number from actual figures, and I don't believe it. Do I believe that the hives that formed on her neck were from the stress that I was creating? Maybe. Do I care? Approximations. I just do not understand it. And I gave this speech in that Finanzamt, in that tax office. I do not understand how this nation can impress me with being such perfectionists, they're overeducated, overlearned. It's impressive. And I don't understand how then these really attention to detail type mentality just goes to absolute shit and we go, we're going to approximate and scare the shit out of poor people that they're buried under debt and should maybe just give up. Stop with the approximating, Germany. I don't understand it. Whew, I'm getting fired up today. Well, if all those got me fired up, let me just get into number 5. Let's talk about the justice system. Because there's a lot of things I really do not understand about the German justice system. And before I get into real details of things that I've encountered and how I've come to my opinions, I really need to say, before this person appears in the comments, and I know you will, that I think it is a damn shame that anytime I try to have this conversation and express my views, opinions, questions, look for explanations for the things I don't understand with, for example, a group of Germans, I think it's a damn shame that there's always one German that looks at me and he simply sees my passport. And even though nothing has been brought up about the death penalty or capital punishment, for some reason, if I'm going to critique the German law, the first thing the German wants to say back to me is, well, at least we don't do the death penalty. I'm sorry, but I think you're confusing me with a different American stereotype. That's not who I am. I'm definitely not for capital punishment. One clear look at, for example, which countries in this great world of ours actually use capital punishment and murder criminals, it's pretty clear that America is not in good company with these actions. Also, me personally, I feel one innocent person killed wrongly is one too many. I also feel like mentally ill people who need help should not be killed for capital punishment. They should get help. Just because my passport says I'm from there doesn't mean I agree with what they do. In fact, if I may be so bold once again, I would dare say the way the justice system works in America could certainly be one of the top 5 factors as to what keeps me living in good old Germany. I digress. But I've been surprised a lot of times. I would say one of the first times I remember being surprised about the justice system here in Germany was stumbling across some sort of documentary on TV. This would have been within my first 5 years of living here. And this documentary was exposing, for example, one specific criminal had been convicted, crimes against children, and they were showing how he was allowed to walk unguarded from his jail to a therapist's office a couple streets down, right past the playground and a school. And in this documentary, they were talking about the statistics here in Germany. And as a mother who brought her son to Germany, I was really kind of shocked to hear that the statistics are pretty high, that when they catch somebody, for example, let's just word it as commits crimes against a child, way too often, it's somebody they caught before and was released. I don't know what the answer is, but that clearly sounds like something's not working there. I cannot say clear enough that I really respect that Germany puts a value on rehabilitation. But I worry that there's like this mentality that refuses to accept that monsters do exist. There are some bad people you just can't fix. And I also worry that there seems to be a hint of arrogance about this ability to heal or fix everyone. And I was really surprised to find out that essentially a life sentence in Germany is around 15 years. Even if it was a really bad crime, generally after 15 years they can apply for parole. I'm sorry, what are we in the Middle Ages where humans only live to 30 or something? You do realize I could kill somebody in my 20s and be out in my 30s living my life. That guy's still dead, and maybe I could run into his family on the street. I remember being really surprised. I had a friend, she told me when I was coming to visit her for one of the first times that it was kind of a bad neighborhood. I wasn't nervous because in Germany, what they call a bad neighborhood is nothing compared to a bad neighborhood in America. So I went and I proceeded, and I remember like meeting a couple of the neighbors, and like everybody knew that the guy that lived over there, well, he killed someone. I think the story was he killed his wife and possibly one of their children. Regardless, this is not one person telling me this and so it's questionable. I'm telling you, everybody in this apartment complex I visited knew that that guy up there was a murderer who's free and he lives up there, spends his days drinking now. That really surprised me. So bizarre. But even worse, recently, Do you think my attitude and opinion is improving the more years I stay in Germany? No! After I found out I had a stupid brain tumor, I thought I was lucky enough to find what I would describe as my dream apartment, right in the middle of the city, giving me easy access to all of the doctors and such that I needed. And it's been 2 years or so that I've been in this apartment, and I've got to tell you something. There's one little troublemaker on this property who has clearly broken laws, and over and over and over again. It seems to me like those laws, they don't always matter. Also surprising to me is that when things would happen that would be clearly seen as signs of aggression and something you could call maybe a red light because it could lead to something bad, those things are just ignored. Like when I see this possible psychopath with an actual electric saw breaking into what is not the place he rents, the basement of a neighbor building behind what he rents, literally breaking in with a saw and cutting metal to rip off the door, destroying somebody's property. The saw cutting into the metal was so loud it woke me up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, sparks flying everywhere, so I notified the person that owned this property. Are you aware that this man is just breaking into your basement? Call was made to the cops. This was clear trespassing. However, the cops informed this person that, no, it's on private property, we're not going to go out. Not long after that, not so long after that, that same possible psychopath decided to enter the neighbor building, which would be where I live. He entered the building acting like a terrorist, all the way up the steps, banging on walls, doors, and windows for everybody to come out in the most aggressive, loud screaming that he could. When he was repeatedly told to leave, he refused. When he was guided out by neighbors, a neighbor got injured trying to remove this man that had no reason to enter this property and was refusing to leave. It scared the shit out of me when it awoke me from resting in my bed trying to heal. I had a headache, because I had a brain tumor and I'm over here trying to heal. Eventually 6 cops showed up. The one cop that took a few seconds to listen to my report as I'm standing there, my hands shaking and trying to explain how I was awoken from my bed by a maniac who refused to leave and was acting aggressive. Well, I was only able to get 3 words in before he felt the need to ask me where I was from, because to that cop, that was important. His radar went off. I wasn't German. Also, I clearly requested to file charges. That was ignored. But even worse, at the end of all of that, this female cop stood in front and just made it clear. The cops, they didn't give a shit about the law. They wanted this done. They wanted both parties to calm down, be quiet, and you should both apologize to each other. At that moment, the only thing I needed to apologize for was the fact that I even gave these cops the time of freaking day. But you see, the possible psychopath next door, what does he know? He knows he can get away with a lot of shit and nothing will happen. And it wasn't long after that when one of his employees kicked me. So another one of these psychopaths from the same location felt it was a good idea to kick a disabled woman as her back was turned in the hand. Now again, in Germany, they have laws about this kind of stuff. And this time, unfortunately for me, I think the same cop that was more interested in where I was from than why the cop had to be called because the psychopath was up on the 2nd floor screaming like a maniac, that's the same cop that responded to the kicking incident. This time, he pretended to be interested and understand what's going on. And he filed the charges for me. He wrote out the little piece of paper for me, and I waited. What happens? What happens to a guy in Germany that thinks it's okay to kick a disabled woman? Coincidentally, the police and every government office in this town have been called repeatedly to this exact same address over and over and over again. Is it okay to kick people? Is it okay for a man to kick a disabled woman when her back is turned? What I learned is the city here doesn't care. Regardless of what your freaking laws say, I got a letter here that says they're not going to go through with the charges because it's not in öffentlichen Interesse. It's not in the public interest. So if you're planning on moving to Germany, and you have a parent or a friend or somebody that you need to care for, maybe because they have disabilities, I want to take this moment to tell you, be careful. The German government thinks it's fine for those people to get kicked. I don't understand this system. It doesn't feel like it's so much about justice as it is just compromise. We just want this to stop. We don't care that one party is acting completely like an animal and completely violent, aggressive, and doing illegal things. Those laws that you're supposed to defend and we're supposed to listen to, they become fuzzy and don't really matter. This becomes more of just like the day when those 6 worthless cops showed up here. They just want to go like this, everybody calm down, and y'all apologize to each other. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. I don't understand why they write laws that don't seem to matter. And I don't understand how you can even call it justice when it really doesn't feel like you're trying to really correct anything. It feels like it's just another paperwork being filed and you just want your ordnung, you just want your order and you want to put it somewhere. But meanwhile, people are suffering. I literally recently watched a friend go to court with a ton of evidence in regards to how the people she was in court against had been destroying her things, how they had repeatedly made false claims and lied about things, and how not just 1, 2, or 3 people had been affected by the aggressive and animalistic acts of these people that she had brought to court, but many, many had valid complaints of being afraid of this situation. And this court must have realized that, yeah, she's got a case, but still in the end, after clear evidence that this person is aggressive, does whatever the hell they want, total disregard for laws, has in fact destroyed things, made threats, broken into property. In the end, this court actually attempted to say, yeah, okay, they gotta go, but we're gonna let them decide who goes in there next. What the hell? First off, how are you gonna tell anybody who they have to rent to and deal with for the next few years? And then how are you going to let the person in control of that decision be somebody who has repeatedly broken laws, destroyed property, and scared everybody in the neighborhood? I'll tell you why. Because there isn't justice. They just want it to go away, compromise, pay your fees, and quite honestly, I don't understand it. But I do hope you all feel free to clarify. Educate me. Leave your opinions in the comments below. And I'd appreciate it if you gave me a little like, maybe considered subscribing. Or if you're feeling really bold, you can become one of my beloved members and support this channel by clicking the join button. Anyway, no matter what you do, I thank you for being here today. I do hope to be coming at you again soon with something else. But until that happens, I hope that you're over there taking care of yourself.